In a parallel 1980s, World War III has already started, and Russia, then known as the Soviet Union, is winning and growing its army. They have seized control of major portions of Europe and are currently moving west toward North America. In the opening scene, a young man called Jed drives his younger brother, Matt, and a friend to the neighborhood high school in the American city of Calumet. Later, as the history teacher is lecturing, he witnesses a number of soldiers parachuting to the ground outside the school. The soldiers appear to be chatting in a foreign language, and they have heavy weapons with them. The history instructor goes outside to question the soldiers because he is confused, but he is fatally shot as soon as he steps outside. The soldiers quickly start firing at the school, causing mayhem in the neighborhood. They attack the building with missiles and guns, killing several students there. Jed shows up with his car while Matt and his friends, Robert, Danny, Daryl, Aardvark, and Arturo, are trying to find a way out. The boys enter the vehicle right away, and they all flee the scene. At this point, an attack has spread throughout the entire city of Calumet. Innocent civilians are being killed by hostile soldiers seemingly for no cause, and heavy artillery is being used to destroy multiple structures. Jed and the crew manage to make it to Robert's father's sporting goods shop despite the wreckage. The old man says that because the situation is so bad right now, they should leave the area right away and go to the mountains. The lads are reluctant to part ways with their families, but they are forced to accept. They quickly seize weapons, ammo, and other survival requirements. They gather their supplies, then get in their car and drive to the mountains. They encounter a barricade along the way that is guarded by Soviet soldiers, who start shooting at them. Fortunately, a US Army chopper fires at the men, allowing the party to escape. The Soviet forces, joined with Cubans and Nicaraguans, are aiming to take control of Calumet City and ultimately the entire country, as seen in the scene that follows. Shortly, there has been a Third World War. While this is happening, a local sporting goods store's sales records are being sought by a group of men under the command of Cuban Colonel Bella. However, the guys eventually make it to the highlands and settle down. Jed and Matt have no trouble adjusting because they frequently camp in the area. The crew survives by fishing, hunting, and even eating the local plants as the days go by. A few weeks later, Jed, Matt, and Robert sneak themselves back into the city, which the enemy soldiers have taken full control of. They inquire about their relatives when they enter a food store, and the clerk replies that anyone deemed a threat has been detained in a re-education center. Additionally, the store owner warns the boys to stay away because the military had been on the lookout for them. The boys eventually arrive at the camp, which is a sizable space enclosed by a cage. Jed and Matt finally see their father, who appears to have been severely battered, after some questioning. They also find out that the troops killed their mother. The boys start to cry, as they should, but their father consoles them by reminding them of how he brought them up in a strict way and exhorts them to seek revenge for the murder of their mother. Robert is unable to locate his father in the camp in the meantime. They then visit Mr. Mason, their next-door neighbor, who is delighted to see them again. The elderly guy confesses that Robert's father was killed since his store was short on some weapons. The guns are actually the identical ones that Jed and his boys brought with them into the mountains. Robert is devastated by this and feels responsible for his father's passing, but the boys soon defuse the situation. Later, Mr. Mason leads the lads to the basement where he shows them Tony and Erica, his granddaughters, who seem to be evading the soldiers. He then asks the boys to accompany the girls to a secure area, and they consent. After some time, Jed and his party saddle up and ride into the mountains on their horses. Daryl warns the rest of the gang when he sees 3 Soviet soldiers coming toward the mountains one day. The soldiers arrive at the location and immediately begin shooting pictures while perched precariously close to a cliff. They start looking about after noticing some arrows on the ground when they are already there. They soon come across Jed and his crew sheltering behind the rocks. Little did the soldiers know that the children they were trying to capture were armed and potentially dangerous. They quickly succeed in killing the 3 troops. After the event, Colonel Bella confronts the mayor of Calumet, Daryl's father, and asks him about his son. In an effort to protect his son, Daryl's father asserts that his son is not violent and cannot cause harm to others. In an effort to save the defenseless villagers, he also makes an effort to placate Colonel Bella, but in vain. The following day, in an effort to get revenge, Colonel Bella gathers some residents of the re-education camp, including Jed and Matt's father, and has them all put to death. The teenage group is shocked to find that one of their family members has passed away. Jed, on the other hand, exhorts them to continue fighting for their country and to never give up. The following day, the teenage group devises a strategy, and Erica visits a gas station where some Soviet soldiers are refueling their vehicles. She walks up to the soldiers and nonchalantly drops a package of explosives off. After a brief flirtation with the girl, the soldiers send her on her way. However, just then, there is an explosion that kills a number of the guys. The remaining troops are furious and chase after Erica, but just as they are about to catch up with her, the youth group pops up from the earth and kills the remaining soldiers. The gang gains new inspiration as a result, and they begin eliminating the enemy soldiers with the weapons and ammunition at their disposal the next day. Additionally, they go under the alias Wolverines. The action then jumps ahead a month, at which point the enemy forces are still in charge of the city. Tony once found Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Tanner of the U.S. Air Force resting off close to their tent. She invites Andrew to the camp and feeds him after realizing that Andrew belongs on their side. The situation of the war is then updated by Andrew. He alleges that major American cities, including Omaha, Washington, and Kansas, have been destroyed by nuclear weapons. He continues by claiming that the adversaries, who were primarily Cubans, sneaked into the SAC bases after crossing the border illegally from Mexico. The Soviet soldiers seized the majority of South America and northwest Canada, but American armies were able to halt them at the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains. Additionally, the lines have largely stabilized. Andrew claims that the Russians won't use nuclear weapons since their goal is to capture American soldiers intact. Additionally, Americans won't deploy nuclear weapons on their own territory. He also mentions that his family was trapped behind the lines in Texas. Although he would like to think that his family is still alive, he is aware of what the Soviets are doing to innocent citizens. Andrew joins the Wolverines the following day in one of their conquests. He lends them his military expertise, and they soon dispatch a sizable number of Soviet soldiers. The group begins eliminating an increasing number of enemy soldiers in this manner. They have accumulated a sizable arsenal of weapons as well. Andrew discusses his strategy for seizing a Soviet base camp in the next scene. The group is astounded by how thorough and intelligent Andrew's explanations are. Later, the Wolverines execute the strategy and assault the Soviet base camp from every angle, ultimately helping them win. However, a Soviet general notices their deeds and issues a command to retaliate on the defenseless villagers. The Soviet general issues the soldiers an immediate order to exterminate the Wolverines now that the Soviet High Command is aware of their existence. Tony is talking to Andrew while the Wolverines are watching a rugby match after their triumph. She asks about his wife and adds that she's interested in his romantic life. Tony seems to be drawn to Andrew and appreciates his company. The Wolverines arrive at a high position in the mountain the following day, where they see Soviet planes engaged in combat with American aircraft. Two Soviet tanks approach from behind as they stand back and watch the pandemonium unfold. The Wolverines instantly hide behind a boulder and start shooting at them as a response. Andrew and Aardvark go on a tank to launch a counterattack when the enemy force starts to gain the upper hand, but they are fatally shot, devastating the rest of the squad. Given how much Tony loved Andrew, she seems to be much more devastated. Jed shoots the enemies with a bazooka to end their threat before any more people are hurt. The Wolverines bury Andrew and Aardvark's bodies after the catastrophe and offer a prayer for their souls' comfort. One day, the Soviets send a Spetsnaz unit into the highlands to look for the Wolverines using portable tracking devices. Despite this, the Wolverines assault and easily defeat them because they were ready for them when they arrived. The Spetsnaz chief and all of their weaponry are subsequently taken captive. The leader of the Spetsnaz is later questioned by the gang about their plans, but he remains silent. He continues to speak in Russian while still managing to utter the phrase, "Go to hell, Yankees." The group is incensed by this, and they immediately kill him. The team then looks through the enemy force's dead bodies to discover the portable tracking device. They find out that Daryl is the target of the tracking device because it is directed at him. When confronted by Jed, Daryl reveals that when his father handed him in, the Soviets had captured him. He continues by claiming that before allowing him to join the Wolverines, the Soviets made him ingest a tracking device. Daryl cries out for mercy, but Robert shoots him for betraying them after learning that the others lack the will to kill their own comrade. The Wolverines later arrive at a different site, where they keep a watch on a convoy of Soviet trucks carrying food. The moment Matt is about to fire a rocket gun at the soldiers, some food cartons accidentally fall from the soldiers' hands. The Wolverines decide to cancel their assignment so they may go get the food because they are now starving. And as soon as the soldiers are gone, they seize the food and chow down. They seem delighted to be eating regular food again after such a long time. Their joy, however, is fleeting as the Soviet helicopters quickly approach them. The Wolverines learn of the looming threat, but it is already too late. They are quickly bombarded with heavy gunfire, which results in Tony being shot. Despite being significantly outnumbered, the group manages to fight back. Soon after, Jed mounts Tony on the horse and the group starts to flee. Robert defeats one of the helicopters in the process, but another one quickly shoots him to death. Tony is hidden beneath a boulder by Jed because he sees she won't last long. The two then discuss their friendship's current situation and how war can devastate an entire country. After some time, Tony declares that she would prefer to go off on her own than to be executed by the Soviets. After much persuasion, Jed gives in to her desire for a grenade. He gives her a live grenade before departing. The remainder of the Wolverines then flee the scene. After a while, the Soviet troops and their general leave the chopper and start looking for the Wolverine victims. Soon after, one of the troops finds Tony's body and determines that she has passed away. The grenade slips from Tony's fingers during this operation, setting off an explosion that kills the soldier. The Wolverines come up with a strategy later that evening, and Jed and Matt decide to attack the Soviet headquarters in Calumet. To allow Danny and Erica to flee the city and live in peace, they must divert the troops' attention. Jed rejects Erica's attempts to persuade him to join her in the attack, telling her that someone must survive. The two brothers start shooting at the soldiers as soon as they approach the headquarters. They manage to kill a number of soldiers, but Matt eventually receives a chest shot from a Soviet army commander. Jed defeats the commander but suffers damage in the process. Later, Colonel Bella spots them as a devastated Jed is dragging his brother away. He permits them to depart, though, once he realizes their loss. The two brothers then take a seat in a park and talk about their youth. They both die gradually while still hugging one another. Danny and Erica, on the other side, travel through rugged mountains until they arrive to America's safe haven. The final scene shows a partisan rock and an American flag nearby, signifying America's victory. The partisan rock states that during the first few months of World War III, guerrillas, mostly children, wrote the names of their fallen on the rock. They battled here by themselves and dedicated their lives to prevent the extinction of this nation. Thanks for watching and subscribe to the channel for more videos.